Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a case that's really stumped investigators and, well, fascinated true crime fans for, what, over 60 years now?
That's right. It's a chilling one.
Picture this. It's October 24th, 1961. Quiet suburban town, Lincoln, Massachusetts. A little 4-year-old girl, Lillian Risch, she comes back from playing at a neighbor's house.
And tells the neighbor these just bone-chilling words. Mommy is gone, and the kitchen is covered with red paint.
Yeah. Except we know now that wasn't paint at all, was it?
No, it was blood.
The mommy she was talking about was Joan Carolyn Risch, 30 years old, homemaker, mother of 2.
And the scene, husband's away on business. The 2-year-old son is napping peacefully upstairs like nothing's wrong.
But downstairs, total chaos. These really unsettling bloody smears all over the kitchen.
So with a start like that, our mission here in this deep dive is really to unpack all this confounding evidence.
Yeah, the witness accounts, they often conflict, don't they?
They really do. And the theories are all over the place. We want to explore why this case is still open, still one of America's biggest unsolved mysteries.
We'll dig into Joan's background, that bizarre scene she left, and some surprising clues that popped up later. Okay, let's get into it.
Right. To really get a handle on the mystery, you need to know Joan Risch, the woman herself.
Who was she?
Well, she was born Joan Carolyn Bard in Brooklyn, New York, May 12, 1930. But her early life, it was marked by just profound tragedy.
Yeah, I read about this. Her parents.
Died in a house fire when she was only 8 or 9 in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey. And he was noted as suspicious.
And Joan wasn't even there, right? She was visiting relatives.
Exactly, which, saved her life, but imagine the trauma.
She was then adopted by an aunt and uncle, took their last name, Nattress.
And there are later reports, quite heartbreaking,
Yeah.
that she told a friend she'd been sexually abused by her stepfather.
Wow. Despite all that hardship, though, she did really well in school.
Amazingly well. Graduated from Wilson College in Pennsylvania, 1952, English literature degree.
People described her as, what, highly literate, quiet, kind?
Sincere, and maybe tellingly the most normal person. That description comes up.
Interesting. She worked in publishing after college.
Yeah, started as a secretary, then became an editorial assistant. Seemed like a good path for her.
And then she met Martin Risch.
Yep, 1953, blind date, Harvard football game. They got married in 56.
And like a lot of women back then, she left her career.
Right, to raise the kids. Lillian, born 57 or 58, and David in 59.
Then in April 1961, just 6 months before she vanished, they moved to Lincoln, Massachusetts.
And she seemed to be settling in. Active in the League of Women Voters, gardened, went to the library often.
She even talked about maybe becoming a teacher later on, when the kids were older.
So on the surface, you see this picture of a devoted wife and mother. Seemed pretty content.
Boy, there's always a but in these cases, isn't there?
There is. Some friends did mention she seemed restless, that she missed working in publishing.
Found homemaking unfulfilling was the word used.
Yeah. And that contrast between the outward appearance and whatever was going on inside, it's really key to this whole mystery.
Okay, so let's walk through the day she disappeared, October 24th, 1961.
Right. Martin Risch, the husband, he leaves early. Business trip to New York City.
Joan gets the kids up, breakfast, the usual morning routine.
Then she drops off David, the 2-year-old, at the neighbor's, Barbara Barker's house.
And takes Lillian, the 4-year-old, to a dentist appointment in Bedford.
Uh-huh. A dentist recommended by a college friend, Sabra Morton.
Yeah.
And the dentist later said, Joan seemed totally normal. No red flags.
After the dentist, Joan and Lillian did a little shopping, paid cash for some clothes.
Seemed like a completely ordinary morning. The milkman came. The postman.
Both said nothing seemed out of the ordinary at the house.
And get this. The mail they delivered that morning. Still in the mailbox later. Untouched. 4 letters.
Wow. Okay, so around 11:15 a.m., Joan gets back home with Lillian.
Picks up David from Barbara Barker's. They chat for a bit about the dentist.
And Barbara Barker thought Joan seemed in extremely good spirits.
Yeah. Then Joan changes clothes into a blue house dress, white sneakers, like she's settling in for the afternoon.
A dry cleaner driver also stopped by, Walton Colburn.
Right, to pick up Martin's suits. He didn't notice anything unusual either. Everything seems fine.
Joan makes lunch, puts David down for his nap. Usually lasted till about 2 p.m.
Around 1 p.m., Barbara Barker brings her son, Douglas, over to play with Lillian.
And they see Joan outside, pruning plants, putting shears in the garage.
Then, just before 2 p.m., Joan takes both kids, Lillian and Douglas, back over to Barbara Barker's place.
Tells Lillian she'll be back soon. The kids go play on a swing set.
And crucially, you couldn't see the Risch house from that swing set.
Okay, so up to this point, pretty mundane Tuesday afternoon.
Until about 2:15 p.m. This is the last confirmed sighting of Joan.
Barbara Barker again.
Yeah, she briefly sees Joan, thinks she's wearing a trench coat, moving quickly up her own driveway.
Carrying something.
Carrying something red with outstretched arms from her car towards the garage. That's the quote.
But Barbara just assumed she was, what, chasing the kids or something?
Pretty much. Didn't think much of it at the time, but that was it. The last definite sighting.
But then things get weird. There are other sightings, but they're unconfirmed, right?
Exactly. And they paint a really confusing picture. Around 2:45 p.m., so about half an hour later.
Someone sees a woman who looks like Joan.
Yeah, similar clothes, handkerchief on her head. But she's described as wandering, hunched over like she's cold, looking untidy.
Where was this?
Walking west on Route 2A, only about 300 yards from the Risch house.
Okay. Then at 3:00 p.m., something else. A car.
Virginia Keene, the next-door neighbor's daughter, she sees an unfamiliar car in the Risch driveway.
What kind of car?
Dirty, two-tone, one-color blue. Maybe a General Motors model, she thought.
And just after that, around 3:05 p.m.
Another local resident reports stopping their car to let a car back out of either the Keenes or the Risch's driveway.
But the Keenes were adamant it wasn't their driveway.
Right. They insisted no car was in their drive, which points back to the Risch house.
Then the sightings get even stranger and further away.
Yeah, between 3:15 and 3:30 p.m., a woman, again dressed similarly, is seen walking north.
But this time on the Route 128 median strip in Waltham. That's miles away.
5 or 6 miles, yeah. And Route 128 was under construction then, kind of a rough area to be walking.
And the description here is more alarming, isn't it?
It is. Blood reportedly running down her legs, cradling something in her stomach.
Good heavens. And then the car sighting again.
4:15 p.m., a blue two-tone car, maybe the same one, maybe similar, parked on Sunnyside Lane near Route 2A.
A light blue 59 Ford was also reported around 2:45 p.m., possibly related.
Right. This time a man gets out, cuts some branches from the woods, puts them in his car.
Which is odd in itself, but the milkman had seen a similar car.
In the Risch's driveway, 5 days before the disappearance. Adds another layer of weirdness.
And one more sighting.
4:20 p.m. Woman matching the description walking south along Route 128 near Trepolo Road, about 4 miles from home.
This time her legs looked like they were covered in mud. Head down, hands in pockets.
That's the report. What's just really striking about all these sightings?
Nobody stopped to help.
Nobody. Multiple people saw a woman who appeared distressed, possibly injured, possibly bleeding, and just drove on by.
It's hard to fathom now, but maybe things were different then, or maybe people were just shocked.
Could be, but it's a really disturbing detail in this whole thing.
Okay, so while all this potential activity is happening out on the roads, back at the house.
Right. At 3:40 p.m., Barbara Barker takes Lillian back home, assumes Joan is inside somewhere. Then Barbara leaves to go shopping.
When does she realize something's wrong?
When she gets back around 4:15 p.m., Lillian runs back over to the Barker house, crying.
And says those words. Mommy is gone, and the kitchen is covered with red paint.
Barbara also finds David, the toddler, crying in his crib. His diaper needs changing, just left alone.
So Barbara goes over to the Risch house herself.
And sees it. Lillian wasn't exaggerating. Blood smears on the kitchen walls, the floor, a table's overturned.
And the phone.
The handset of the wall-mounted phone was ripped loose, tossed in a wastebasket that had been moved to the middle of the floor.
The phone book was open?
Open to the emergency numbers page. But no numbers were written down. No calls seemed to have been made. Suggest panic, maybe? Or maybe preventing a call.
Just chaos. Barbara calls the police immediately.
4:33 p.m. Sergeant Mike McHugh gets there in 5 minutes.
His first thought was suicide.
Yeah, he searched for a body inside, found nothing. Then he called for backup.
And they contacted Martin, the husband, in New York.
He flew back immediately, straight into this absolute nightmare.
So the investigation begins. What did they make of that kitchen?
It was a puzzle. Big blood smears, like we said, on the walls, floor, the phone.
Looked like someone tried to clean up.
Yeah, there were paper towels, rags used. And David's coveralls and underpants, also bloody, were on the floor. Looked like something heavy, maybe a body had been laid on them.
And the blood trail.
Led from the kitchen out towards the driveway, stopped abruptly at Joan's parked car.
Her car was there.
Yes. And it had blood droplets on the right rear fender, the left side of the hood, center of the trunk.
And that wire hanger.
Just sitting on the roof of the car. Strange detail.
But here's the thing that gets me every time.
Hmm.
All that blood, but no bloody footprints.
None. Not a single one in the kitchen. How does that happen? It's like someone floated or was carried very carefully.
Was there blood anywhere else?
Yes, upstairs. A drop on the first stair, 2 at the top, 8 drops in the master bedroom, and 1 near window in the kids' room.
The blood type was O.
Type O, which was Joan's blood type. But it's also the most common type, so it doesn't prove much on its own. No DNA back then, of course.
And the amount of blood? She said it wasn't much?
Relatively speaking, no. A state police chemist figured it was only about half a pint total.
Which is like what you give when you donate blood.
Exactly. Enough to make a horrific mess, visually shocking, but probably not a life-threatening amount on its own.
That just adds to the feeling that maybe it was staged somehow.
It certainly fuels that theory. It looks incredibly violent, but the physical evidence suggests maybe not fatally violent.
What about fingerprints?
Ah, yes. 3 bloody prints were found that weren't Joan's.
Where?
A left thumbprint right next to the phone mount on the wall, and 2 other fingerprints, plus a partial palm print, also on the wall.
And they were never identified.
Never. They processed over 5,000 sets of prints trying to find a match. Nothing. Still unidentified today.
And no weapon found either.
Nope, no weapon.
What else did they find or not find in the house?
Well, those 4 letters were still in the mailbox, unopened. An empty liquor bottle in that wastebasket in the kitchen.
Martin said they finished that the night before.
Right. But there were also empty beer bottles he couldn't explain, so they didn't usually drink beer.
Joan's trench coat was left behind, the one Barbara Barker thought she saw her wearing.
Her coat and her pocketbook were still in the house, but a different coat, a plainer cloth coat, was missing.
How much money did they think she had on her?
Very little. Investigators estimated less than $10.
And no signs of a break-in? Nothing stolen except Joan.
Exactly. No forced entry, no robbery, just her gone. It's the definition of a baffling scene.
So the search begins. What did they do?
Called hospitals, obviously. Nothing. Brought in police dogs.
Did they pick up a scent?
Only up to the edge of the Barker's property, then it vanished.
Mm-hmm.
Suggests maybe she got into a car there.
They searched the area extensively.
Oh, yeah. Air and ground searches. Woods, reservoirs, buildings nearby. Absolutely nothing turned up.
Rewards were offered.
Yes, including a pretty hefty one, $5,000 from the Boston Record American newspaper.
But no useful leads came from that?
Nope. After the initial flurry, it just went cold. Some bodies were found in the area years later, but none were Joan. It was like she just evaporated.
Okay, this next part. The library discovery. This really throws a curveball, doesn't it?
It really does. A local reporter, Serene Gerson, she did some digging.
At the library Joan frequented.
And found out that Joan had borrowed 25 books about murders and missing persons cases just in the summer of '61.
25 books on that topic, right before she disappeared. That's significant.
It's staggering. And one book in particular, Into Thin Air.
What was that one about?
It described a woman who vanished, leaving behind blood smears and a towel. Details that mirrored Joan's own scene.
That's incredibly specific. And wasn't there another one?
A biography of Agatha Christie.
The famous mystery writer who, actually faked her own disappearance for a short time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you put those pieces together, the sheer number of books, the specific titles.
It makes that theory that she staged the whole thing seem suddenly very plausible, doesn't it?
It became a leading theory, absolutely. Martin Risch, her husband, he pushed back on it, though.
What did he say?
He said Joan was just an avid reader, loved all sorts of suspense stories, mysteries, said it didn't mean anything specific.
So how do you interpret that? A genuine hobby or research?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Did her reading habits inspire a plan, or was it just coincidence?
Did the police look at anyone else? Any suspects?
They did look into one man, Robert Foster, based on neighbors' concerns.
Who was he?
A purchasing agent for the National Park Service. He'd been visiting homes nearby, including the Risch house, about a month earlier.
Why was he visiting homes?
Part of a project about the Minuteman National Historical Park. But some women in the area apparently found his visits uncomfortable.
So naturally, suspicion fell on him when Joan vanished.
It did. But police checked him out thoroughly.
Did he have an alibi?
A solid one. Lunch with his supervisor, then a meeting with a property appraiser. All verified.
So he was ruled out.
Yeah. Another dead end. This case is just full of them.
Okay, so let's talk theories. With no clear answers, what are the main possibilities people consider?
Well, the first one is sort of the most obvious, given a great blood, abduction, or foul play.
The evidence for that would be the blood, the mess, those unidentified prints.
Right, the sightings of the strange car. Maybe someone forced their way in or lured her out.
But the problems with that theory are pretty big.
Huge. No forced entry, no signs of a struggle on Joan, assuming the blood wasn't from defending herself, but the amount was small. No weapon found.
And only Joan was taken, nothing else stolen. The house looked normal except for the kitchen.
Exactly. It doesn't quite fit a typical abduction or murder scenario.
Okay, theory 2. The voluntary disappearance. Staging the scene.
This one leans heavily on those library books. Into Thin Air, Agatha Christie.
Plus those comments about her being restless, maybe wanting to escape domestic life, maybe her past trauma played a role.
All plausible motivations, perhaps, but again, big problems.
Leaving her kids with less than $10.
Yeah. No sign she prepared financially, no contact for over 60 years. It seems almost impossible to pull off so completely.
And friends insisted she adored her children, seemed happy enough, they just couldn't picture her doing that.
It's a tough one to reconcile with the loving mother image.
What about an accident? Could she have gotten hurt and wandered off?
That's another theory. Accidental injury followed by disorientation, maybe even a fugue state like amnesia.
The small amount of blood could fit that. Maybe she fell or cut herself with those pruning shears she was using earlier.
And the sightings of a woman looking dazed, sagging on the highway, that could fit too.
The idea here is she wandered off, confused, maybe fell into one of those construction pits on Route 128.
Then was inadvertently buried.
Hmm.
It's a tragic thought.
But nobody ever found anywhere.
Right. And Joan had no known history of mental illness, no previous episodes of amnesia or anything like that. So it's speculation based on the sightings.
Then there's the darker, more speculative theory, the one involving abortion.
Yeah, this one comes up often in hushed tones because it was illegal and highly sensitive then. It's purely circumstantial.
Based on what, exactly?
Those sightings of blood running down her legs, cradling her stomach, the phone ripped up, maybe panic, or stopping someone calling for help.
The empty beer bottles may be used for pain or courage. And that wire hanger on the car? Wire hangers were tragically associated with illegal abortions back then.
The idea is she might have been pregnant, tried a dangerous procedure at home, or suffered a severe miscarriage, and things went terribly wrong.
The unidentified fingerprints could belong to someone who helped her, maybe an abortion provider.
Possibly. The scene could reflect a medical emergency, a failed attempt to clean up or conceal what happened.
What are the counter-arguments here?
Well, zero direct evidence she was pregnant or seeking an abortion. Martin, her husband, said she'd have been happy about the another baby.
And crucially, no blood found in the bathroom, which seems like the logical place for cleanup in that scenario, right?
You'd think so. Makes the kitchen scene even stranger if that was the cause.
It's all just layers upon layers of maybe.
That's this case in a nutshell, which might explain Martin Risch's perspective.
He never declared her legally dead, did he?
Never. He held on to the belief she was alive, maybe had amnesia, a psychological break. Just couldn't find her way back home.
He never remarried either.
No. It's quite sad, really, that enduring hope or maybe denial.
What about the police chief, Leo Algio?
He was one of the original investigators. He kept working the case long after he retired in 1970, called it a stone around his neck.
Did he think he knew what happened?
He hinted he had his own theory, but he never shared it publicly, just said he always expected a body or bones or something to turn up eventually.
People don't disappear without a trace, he said.
But sometimes, maybe they do. He died in 2009, the case still unsolved. Took his theory with him.
So, Joan Risch's case, still open, still completely baffling.
It really captures the imagination because of all these contradictions. The perfect suburban life versus the chaotic scene, her reading about mysteries versus becoming one.
Every clue seems to point two ways at once.
It does. You think about it now with modern tech. DNA could test that blood evidence. Maybe finally identify those fingerprints.
Geoprofiling, data forensics, could they find something new?
Maybe. Behavioral analysis might offer new insights into her state of mind. But it's been so long.
Some experts think she probably died soon after leaving the house, from injury or foul play.
Others still lean towards her pulling off a disappearance, escaping an unhappy life, maybe starting over somewhere else.
So we're left with this haunting question, really. What happened? Was it tragedy? A secret life? Random violence? Something else entirely?
Could someone just vanish so completely from a life that looks so normal on the outside?
Is the truth simply that sometimes people do disappear without a trace? Or is there just one key piece missing, that one thing that would finally make it all make sense?
It's impossible to say for sure. What do you think happened to Joan Risch?